Good evening, councillors, good evening, staff, and good evening to the general public. We have the Planning and Environment Committee, and we're located at the corner of Edward and Botany Road, Botany. The first item is acknowledgement of country. Bayside Council respects the traditional custodians of the land of elders past and present on which this meeting takes place, and acknowledges the Gringilli and the Bridgilli clans of Sydney Basin. We have an apology from Councillor Joanne Jansen. If I could have someone move that the apology be accepted. Moved by the Mayor, seconded by Councillor Barlow. I'll put it all in favour, so I declare it no, declare it carried. Next item is the declaration of interest. Councillors and members of the public, I wish to declare interest on CPE 22.01010. The interest as I declare a significant non-pecuniary interest on this item, as my family own property in the Rockdale CBD, and I will not be voting, and I will not be in the room while this item is being discussed. That's CPE 22.0110. Any others? Okay, if not, if I can have someone move that the declaration of interest be noted. Moved by the Mayor, seconded by Councillor Westcott. I'll put it all in favour, so aye. That's against no, declare it carried. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of April. If I can have someone move that it be accepted. Councillor Westcott and Councillor Barlow. Any items? If not, I'll put it all in favour, so aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Items of exception. It's nil. Public forum. I don't think we've got anyone for public forum. Okay, I'll now leave the chamber, and I'll ask the Mayor, Councillor Curry, to chair the meeting.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to the first item, 010. So this is amendments to Rockdale Development Control Plan 2011. There's a bit of history with this, so I might ask the Director of Planning to provide an overview, please.
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor. This exercise really started with an amendment to Council's LEP. And that was driven by Council's housing strategy that identified Rockdale as a centre to be looked at. Rockdale has had significant development potential for some time, but that hasn't been realised because of some anomalies, I guess, in the controls. So this exercise really had two parts to it. One was to look at Rockdale on the eastern side of the railway line to tweak some of the controls there to help unlock the potential for development. And the second part was to look at on the other side of the station, the Walt Street area, to see what could be done there to encourage some development of that side as well. So the LEP amendments have run their course as a planning proposal, and Council has put on exhibition and got to the point of endorsing that. One of the preconditions to us sending that into the Department of Planning to be finalised was that a DCP be prepared to go with that LEP amendment. And that's what's before you tonight. So the DCP really fills out the finer detail controls that go alongside the LEP amendment. The LEP deals with zoning and height and floor space, or not floor space in this case, in Rockdale, and those broader brush controls. The DCP fills in the detail around setbacks, building envelopes and the like. And so it's important to have both the DCP and the LEP together so that you've got a full suite of controls to guide development in the future. So the DCP is back before you tonight following it being on public exhibition, and the recommendation is that you endorse that DCP, and that will allow it to come into place and for the LEP amendment to be sent off to the department to be finalised at the same time. Just in terms of the time frame, the LEP amendment had a 12-month time frame from when it was endorsed by the Department of Planning to go on exhibition until it needed to be finalised, and that time frame runs out at the end of June. So ideally we'd have the LEP sent off for finalisation and the DCP coming into force at the same time. So I won't go into the detail of what's in the DCP, but that's the general context of it.
Thank you, Mr Barber. Is there a mover and a seconder? Someone have moved? Councillor Douglas, second. Councillor Barlow. Is there any discussion? Councillor Werner.
Thank you. I've had a bit of a look at the DCP, and I think obviously a lot of work has gone into that, so thank you to all the staff who worked on that. It's also strikes me as that it's really important that it goes along with the LEP, because the LEP's got these huge heights, and then the DCP actually controls some of that by putting podiums and making it less imposing at street level. So, so for that reason, I think the DCP, I can see its importance, and that the two go together. I have seen online that there has been, you know, a bit of, I guess, disappointment that the heights are so high, and I think especially in on the Wall Street area with 10 to 12 stories in a place where at the moment it's still only about two or three, I think, maximum. And so I think, and I know that the LEP has already gone through a process, and that it's already been, it was approved, I think, in November at the last meeting before the elections and before the new council came in. So, however, I understand that the LEP has not been sent to the department yet. And I wonder whether it would be possible to ask for an extension, and whether especially the Wall Street area could be, whether we could have more public consultation, especially on that side of the station. So, do you think that would be possible? Oh, through the chair, if I could ask the relevant.
I'll just
officer.
preface that by saying that it has gone out for extension. So that everyone has the opportunity to put forward for professional view, please, Mr. Barber.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The department sets timeframes for these exercises to run their course in the interest of keeping things moving and being efficient. And so in this case, we were given 12 months, and we're right up to the end of that period now. I don't think we've ever asked for an extension before of that kind, and I'm just checking with the team here. Our hunch is that we're probably not likely to get one, but it's something that we could ask for. But yeah, you're right, the council really has signed off on that part of the process, and there's a statutory process that we go through that has a number of steps in it, and council did get to the very last step in that in November last year, and so there's generally that process isn't reopened again once council gets to that last stage, but we could ask the department for that, for an extension on that.
Any further questions?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just looking there that it says that that council receives a further report post-exhibition. Have we had anyone make any comments or in reference to the submission?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, so this report outlines the submissions that we received on the DCP, not the LEP. That was done last year. And so, yeah, there were a number of submissions in there, some from government departments and some from individuals, some in support and some requesting changes or raising issues with it. So that they're all attached to the report, and there are some minor changes recommended as a consequence of those. But that's essentially what this report deals with.
Well, we have a recommendation.
the department for an extension of the time limit for the LEP to undertake further consultation, further public consultation, so that would allow for an extra period. Just because I think, and it has been to public consultation, but I think sometimes it can be hard for residents to keep on top of everything that's happening at council, and it did seem, it's such a big change that even, you know, this amount of consultation that we've had, which is the statutory amount that we need to have, it still doesn't quite seem enough when it's such a huge change to our local area. So I would ask whether that decision could be deferred and if we can get an extension.
So I might just ask, you know, because I thought we'd endorsed the LEP, and so that's not what we're considering tonight.
So through the chair, there would be a procedural problem if council actually, if the committee moved the way that Councillor Werner has suggested, and that was the recommendation to council, council would be considering asking for a deferral at a time when basically its time has run out. And we wouldn't be able to get back to you if the deferral wasn't granted. So we're really at a bit of a pinch point here. My suggestion is if the whatever the committee resolves, or whether what's on the paper or something else, we have the ability between now and the council meeting to have a chat with the department, and they can verify whether or not there would be any possibility of granting an extension. Given we've had 12 months, it probably isn't going to be possible, but we could certainly have that conversation and give you that information before the next council meeting.
Thank you. Well,
Happy with that?
Could I make a suggestion then that even at the council meeting we could make it conditional on actually receiving that extension, for instance, if we build that into the...
So we don't need to do that. What we can do is just the advice will be sought, the advice will be relayed to us, and then should this item wish to be pulled, it can be and discussed at full council.
Okay.
So what we'll do is, if the committee's happy, we'll just move the recommendation, and you know, we'll see what the advice is back.
Yeah.
And then,
Would we be able to put that in as a part of this item?
yeah, we can just add a
And
number
just
5
add-
that
Yeah.
yep, that council seek advice on whether an extension would be supported, should council wish to resolve that way.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Councillor Werner, through you, Councillor Werner, what kind of extra public consultation do you think is required in this instance?
Well, I think putting the LEP back on consultation, just because, and I know we don't want to change specific, you know, areas, but an LEP does usually have different, and the DCP also has this, different character areas. Like, you know, there are about, I think, 5 in this DCP in the Rockdale Town Centre, where different areas have a different character. And I do think that particularly the Wall Street side of the station, because at the moment it's still all single and double storey buildings, that you know, it would be worth having another look at, because taking it from 2-storey to suddenly being 12 stories is quite a shock, I think, for the community. So so I think the whole, just looking at it in terms of, in the context of the whole amendment to the LEP, I think it would be good to have another look at that.
So putting it back on public display?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, declare it carried. I now invite Councillor Saranowski back into the meeting to chair.
It is, actually.
And a long way.
Yeah, I have to run. Bit for spaghetti. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Curry, for chairing the meeting. We're on the next item, which is CPE 22011, the alignment of Sydney Coastal Council Group's annual membership form, term for 4 years of council. There's an officer's recommendation. Moved by Mayor Curry, seconded by Councillor Barlow. Any speakers?
Yeah, I have a question, and this was just to try and understand what contribution or what are the benefits of being a member of the Sydney Coastal Councils Group, and you know, has it contributed to Bayside?
Mr Barlow?
Through you, Mr Chair. The group does a number of things. There's probably a few broad categories. One of them is advocacy. So they represent their members in making submissions to government departments on things. They have a working relationship with Sydney Water, and they deal with Sydney Water on behalf of councils. They make inputs into policies that are on exhibition and that sort of thing. So that's one arm of it that benefits all councils, including Bayside. They also take on individual projects. And at the moment, one of the main ones is the Sydney Harbour Catchment Management Plan, which doesn't relate to Bayside, and that is consuming a fair bit of their time at the moment. They have a litter reduction strategy that they're developing, and that will benefit Bayside. They're working on a sand nourishment. They've got a sand nourishment working group going on, which looks at beach re-nourishment projects, so that is of interest to us as well. So those projects, some of them are more focused on estuaries, some are focused on the coast, and some are, you know, are a benefit to Bayside. So that varies over time, I guess, depending on what they take on. The other thing that they offer is education and training and capacity building for councils. So they run workshops and training sessions on various things when legislation changes or, you know, other things are happening. They help us get up to speed with those things, so that's of benefit to Bayside as well. So they do have a work program that runs over a number of years, so we can have some visibility as to what's coming up and what benefit there might be. But I would say that it changes over time depending on what's happening in the government's policy frameworks and things like that.
Thank you. Any others?
Oh, I just have a question. I'm on the committee and I haven't heard anything from them all year, so I was wondering also how active they were. Well, I'm supposed to be a non-voting member, so yeah, I was wondering how active they actually were.
I think from my understanding, Councillor Morris has been attending. So
Oh, okay.
he's attended 2 meetings. So, yeah, I'm not too sure the delegate, we can cross-check who the delegates are and make sure that the information's been sent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against, no. Declare it carried. Next item is CPE 22.012, which is... Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Saranowski. I'd like to make a change to the recommendation here. And the reason, and I'll read out the recommendation and then I'll provide councillors, new councillors with a bit of background as to why I'm putting forward this change to recommendation. So it's on the screen, so that council, as a matter of urgency, seek council advice to determine whether Bayside Council is a conflict of interest if it was to undertake the role of the PPA, and subject to this advice, that should it be in the negative, the council does not have a conflict. Council resolves to accept the role of PPA and engage the services of an independent planning consultant to provide an independent assessment or peer review. So the reason, this is quite a large impacts to the local infrastructure and traffic, and there was a lot of, when the original planning proposal came to council, there was a lot of community uproar in relation to the density that's proposed. At the time, the council of the day determined to defer it, subject to ensuring we didn't have a conflict of interest, because we do have a library there, but that library was given to council from the original Westfields DA for a 99-year lease for $1. So as it was in the original one. So my view is that there is no conflict because it doesn't, it's the original DA and doesn't impact any, we're not an owner or anything like that. So that's why I'm suggesting, because I think it's really important that we as council make the decision on the planning proposal, because it is our residents that who suffer the consequences of something that is not appropriate potentially in a particular area. So that's what I'd like to put forward, if someone's happy to.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Werner. Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against, no. Declare it carried. Next item is CPE 22.013, which is the Local Heritage Grant Policy and the Heritage Grant Program.
Move that way.
Moved by the Mayor, Mayor Curry. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it. There was a change when I find it.
Page 27.
I've got here, Councillor Muscat seconded it.
Okay,
Councillor Moore.
that's all right. I've just got to make a change when I find it, because I can't.
Do you want that?
It's in the policy, which is in the one which is, isn't it?
Do you want a hard copy?
No, you got the hard copy,
Yeah.
have you? It's just that they've written a report and said that in the heritage grants that they can use that to have a plaque put on their house. Well, it doesn't. That's not what the plaques are about. I did ask that we have a heritage advisor now here. Obviously, he doesn't know that we've got a plaque program going. So I was actually removing it, and now I can't find it. So that it was anything that you could apply, for the heritage grants, and they've got there, you can have the plaque as part of the $3,000. That doesn't make sense. That's a totally different program. So I just wanted that removed. But as I see it and then can't find it.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah,
I can
so
see
it's just that I want...
2.3, eligible types of work, installing a heritage plaque to promote significance of a heritage item, and it's on page 5 of the attachment. Under 2.3.
It was triggered by a resident with a beautiful house in Bexley that actually wrote in to ask about the plaques. And this has somehow got into the heritage grants. It's nothing to do with it. So he was going to try and nominate his house when we do the plaque program. So I just wanted it taken out of here because it's not relating to the heritage grants.
Yep, we can do that amendment. That makes sense. Fausto, we've got that? Okay. All right, any other questions? So I'll put it, which is basically the officer's recommendation with the deletion of the plaques.
Hey, it's 2.3.
Yep. So I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against, no. Declare it carried. Next one is CPE 22.014, the Annual House of the Year Award.
Move that way.
It's been moved by the Mayor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it, but it's a shame, but I don't think it's worth...
It's receive and note.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that, but I'm saying that it was Councillor Hannah that wanted, and we did have it, but it's I agree with the report, so can't afford it. It's sort of something that I think's gone past the days of when we
Yeah.
did it, so,
Okay.
okay.
All right, any other speakers? If not, I'll put it, all in favour, say aye. Those against, no, declare it carried. I'm sure it'll get pulled out by Councillor Hannah next, at the council meeting. Next item is CPE 22.015, which is the draft dog off-leash policy. And there's an officer's recommendation.
Put on public exhibition and move that. To go on public exhibition.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Barlow. Seconded by Councillor Westcott, sorry. Muscat. What am I getting Westcott for? Muscat, sorry. Yeah, I know, sorry.
If I could just, Chair, just ask that in Appendix 1 that Much Park be added. It's not there.
Fausto, has that been added on? Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against, no, declare it carried. There's no confidential reports. I therefore declare the meeting closed and thank everybody in your attendance.
We're ready to go. I declare the meeting of the City Works and Assets Committee meeting of the 8th of June open at 7:07 p.m. I don't think we have any councillors online. Do we have any members of the public registered to speak? No. So everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, to keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone, not to use defamatory or derogatory comments. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette, including debate on an item will commence only once we have a mover and seconder for the item. The mover of the recommendation has the first right to speak on the item. The mover has a right to reply before the recommended blah, 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 blah. We all know about this. I also remind you that the video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the GIPA Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. To begin with, I'd like to start by acknowledging country. Bayside Council respects the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledges the Gadigal and Bidjigal clans of the Sydney Basin. I think we have two apologies from Councillor Fardell and Councillor Jansen. Mover and a seconder. Move Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Souness. Those in favour, all those against. I declare that carried. Do we have any disclosures of interest? No. Great. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Moved Councillor Souness, seconded Councillor Douglas. All those in favour, all those against. Declare that carried. And I don't think we have 4 items tonight, so we might as well just move through them. So CWA 22.011, Rockdale Community Cultural Centre update. A mover and a seconder. Move Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Curry. Do we have any questions? No, all looks pretty good to me. Great reuse of the asset in the middle of Rockdale. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. CWA 22.012, establishment of the Strategic Land and Property Working Group. Moved Councillor Souness. Seconded Councillor
No, I
Curry.
just would move amendment that, well, we can have it, recommends that council appoints a minimum of 5 councillors. It recommends that there be 1 councillor from each ward first, and then if there's other councillors as well, but it needs to have input by every ward so the first 5 nominators should all be from separate wards.
As long as you get one from each ward.
1 from each ward.
Yeah, but you can't force them.
No, you can't force them, but I'm saying that
It would be preferred.
if there could be 8 people want to come on it, but if you can, it should be good to have 1 from each ward. Yeah.
Ideally, maybe we'll put that in
I
brackets.
think we're appointing councillors at the council meeting.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think you should just say that during the council meeting. I don't think we need to
Okay.
amend the motion. It's perfectly reasonable.
Well, it just sort of reinforces it, that's all.
I'm sure you'll remind us on the night.
It does give the point for the ward councillors to all discuss it beforehand and collaborate and see who would like to be on it, so we have that heads up.
I'm not bothered either way. I'm
But
sure
it's
we
a
can
minimum,
figure
you
this
can
out.
have
Yeah,
one-
I'm sure as many
15
people as want to
councillors.
be on this as possible.
Well, it says
saying a minimum
minimum of 5, so you can have 15.
Yeah, a minimum of 5.
It's a good idea to have somebody from each ward.
No. Okay.
Alright. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Proposed redevelopment of the Boulevard Car Park, CWA 22.013. Moved Councillor Souness, seconded Councillor Douglas. I think this requires unless we're happy with the proposed hybrid model. Has everyone read the report?
Hi, Mr. Chair, can I add a comment, please?
Is that Councillor Sedrak? I can't see anyone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Please feel free, Councillor Sedrak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to this motion, I just want to commend Michael Mamma, Mr. Mamma, and the team for putting this forward. I know this has come back and forth over and over and again. And in regards to this actual proposal, the hybrid motion, point 3, or option 3, looks like it's by far the best, and I wholeheartedly agree with this concept. And if we could move forward with it, and whether we look at, and I think there's so much potential, regardless of the cost, whether it be option A, option B, or option C. I think what council needs to do is look at this seriously. Bryden has had a parking issue forever, and we all know that. We must do something regardless. This is an asset that is dying, and so I think pushing it forward and letting Mr. Mamo and the team really get on the front foot with this, and whether we can put, like Councillor Nagy, I think, said previously, with those EV charging stations, or whether it be looking at commercial enterprise inside of it, again, and I think there's a big fear factor. Who owns this site? I think it always needs to be in council hands, there's no doubt about that. However, I'm wholeheartedly for the officer's recommendation with the hybrid 3, and I just want to thank all those who put this together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Sedrak. I guess just a question to the office. Do we have any proposed fund? I know we're going to develop a funding strategy, but do we have any, any source of funding for this? I mean, it is a pretty hefty, hefty cost.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose of the report is for council to agree on the concepts to move forward. What we would be looking to bring back, if council does decide to progress with one of the options that's been before you, will do the feasibility assessment.
Yeah.
We would be looking at the options around funding. So I think in the report we've identified a number of different sources. So looking at internal reserves, what we could utilise from there. Looking at those external reserves, such as the contributions, as to whether any funds can be allocated out of those. Also looking at external borrowings would be another option that we would need to consider, and potentially looking at whether there's opportunities for any divestment of existing assets that are underutilised. So I think they're all options that we need to work through with you as a councillor group and help you understand what's most palatable.
Thank you. I guess sort of more of a general comment, but I know we are, there's a proposal for this sort of rooftop cafe area. I guess we're going to build, the cost of this thing is going to be built and it's going to be there for 50 years or, potentially much longer. I guess what do we think this thing's going to be used for if it gets built out on 3 sides by apartment blocks? That's more of a property point that we want to make. Well, I think the proposal in there, I don't think any of this is going to change in the short term, but I'm sure 20 years down the track, Bryden will look very different. So I guess when we're building, I think we should just keep that in mind, that a rooftop bar area is probably not going to look very attractive if it's surrounded by concrete on 3 sides.
Well, it might be something else. It might be a sporting hub.
Oh, absolutely, but I'm saying we should keep that in mind, as they do with many of these car parks now. They go, well, what are they going to be used for once driverless cars come in,
But the point is, we need to drive towards providing additional car parking.
I'm not opposed to
I
this
know you're not
anyway.
opposed
I'm
to
just
it.
saying, I think we should...
We need to put our toe in that water and see how cold it is and sort of start looking at options.
Absolutely, but I guess I just think, we should be thinking about what this building's going to look like, not next year, but in 20, 30 years. Make sure that if we're spending this much money there, it's going to be good value.
One of the concepts now with car parks is they design them so they can be converted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they've got the specifications to convert into other uses. Should we come to a time when we don't need car parking anymore?
Put glazing around it, carpet, and you're in business.
I have a question just in terms of I love the idea of the adaptable and reusable hybrid space, but the option 2, I really loved how the whole top front floor was taken advantage of for views and whatnots for recreational space. But option 3, it's only part of the top right-hand corner. I was wondering why the decision not to have that prime real estate used for public rather than car space in the option 3.
So, Through the chair, with the flexible model, we have kept open the option to either have a larger non-car area on the roof or a smaller one. So really, when we get down to the fine grain, looking at the modelling and particularly the financials, that's still open for council to consider. And the other really important element is the activation of the boulevard and really making that street frontage something that will, you know, have a very strong community focus. But we haven't, we put it forward with a, you know, I guess, doing adaptable, non-adaptable, or doing that mixture that really brings the best of the car parking and the additional parking that we require, and some other functions that it can, that it could be used for now, but really future-proofing it so that if things do change, we'll have the option to do that. But we're not locked into a small or a large footprint at the moment on the roof.
Okay, excellent. I have one other question, if that's okay, through the chair. The laneway, it's exciting to also see that being looked at to be redeveloped. And I just wanted to ask about the waste option there. I mean, I had thought previously that if we were redeveloping the car park, we might be able to put the waste processor for those restaurants potentially in the bottom floor of the car park, so that we could open up that back laneway for dining and recreational facilities. And it wasn't quite clear to me what the waste plan was for that laneway. There was a picture of a fancy kind of waste processor, but I just wondered if you could unpack that a bit more.
Yes, so if we can ask Craig or Jordan to speak to that.
Yeah, through the chair. That's at this stage, I guess that's indicative, but what the architect was looking at was actually trying to rationalise garbage pickups there. So rather than having a big bin behind each shop, was to try and locate it in one location. So the actual location is to be identified. It could ultimately end up within the car park structure, or it could be on the laneway.
And just to add to that, if it ended up in the car park structure, there'd have to be a commercial relationship with the retailers. It's commercial waste that we're talking about. So council would, if there was any view that council housed that, we would need to ensure that there was a leasing arrangement with the retailers to allow that to happen.
So they would pay a fee?
Yeah, we've never done it.
Yeah.
So it'd be something we'd have to look into. But yeah, to use public space for private purposes like that, that's quite complex.
Okay.
But short, can I say that, short of that, the shopkeepers there have got an obligation to tidy up their act as well. If you drive down that back lane, it's probably the worst, the worst street I've seen in all of our LGA. They've got to create fencing. They've got to do whatever they need to do to keep their bins within the curtilage of their properties, and maintain a sense of cleanliness. Not just, oh yeah, it's out the back, no one looks there. So they've got an obligation. It's not just us providing a service for them. It's them doing their own due diligence and their homework.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm referring to like inspiration from trips to Melbourne, where they've got this, you know, fantastic laneway activation in Melbourne that they use for restaurants and.
But they can do it here. They're just not talking to each other.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that was business-led or council-led in Melbourne, so that's why I thought it would be appropriate to.
They have really, basically, and this is like it was actually what I was going to ask about next, because this is a, you know, as Councillor Sooner said, it's a very unpleasant alleyway. It always stinks, and really, you know, if we want to activate that area, we really need to think of something to do about it. I mean, in Melbourne, they just tell the shops you can't put your waste on the street, which for these sort of restaurants is going to be a tremendous challenge, and honestly a pretty hard thing to hit them with. As you know, they're all hospitality businesses, but you know, that's something that I think in this process, and again, if we're spending this much money redeveloping this area, we should make sure that it's actually going to result in, you know, a precinct. And I think, you know, part of this is that sort of you're activating another street, and, you know, preferably the laneway as well. But I think we need to put some thought into that, because there's no point, you know, losing a significant amount of amenity there because we can't sort out an issue like that. And I honestly don't think using council property is ever going to be a realistic long-term solution. got to figure out something else. But we do need to do something about that.
And hopefully by the time we get the money for this, their waste would be reduced to almost nothing.
Yes, hopefully, or compressed into one of those fancy.
Well, let's.
But I guess we need to think about, we probably, there are a lot of businesses with the same sort of issues there that have a lot of waste going out into that laneway. We've probably got to lead a bit of the thought process behind solving that as part of this process, I would say.
Because already some of those restaurants do open out onto the laneway and could be more opened out onto the laneway.
Yeah, I'm sure potentially some of them could use the frontage to, not the backage to sell things.
Well, the back is just a shortcut to the frontage.
Anyway, they're all just things to think about, I guess, as you guys do your work on this. But overall, looks like a great proposal. Anybody have any other questions? Councillor Werner.
Thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to note that we did get a letter from the Brighton Les Sands Action Group, and wanted to thank them for the letter. And just wanted to confirm that we're not, council's not considering going into a partnership with developers, that the financing will be done in some other way. I think that's what you were saying, Mr. Marmo, but I just wanted to just make that clear for members of the public who might be watching.
Yeah, for anyone listening and for the public record, there's nothing in this proposal suggesting any sort of private arrangement.
No JVs.
No joint ventures, no public-private partnerships, no private ownership.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, declare that carried. Item CWA 22.014, Botany Aquatic Centre, moved Mayor Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Douglas. Any questions?
Just one question.
Councillor Barlow?
I believe when we first amalgamated, was it Matt Thistlethwaite promised us money if he got into government? I think.
No, if Labor got into government.
Yeah, this is
not much
federal. This
I
is
think
the federal one.
circa
So
2019.
I'm wondering if he's got. You can ask him. It's just that, to look at the money we've got, the increases, but I think have they had any of the meetings with the reference group or not?
Yeah,
Just, you've got to look at it, I don't know if you've got to...
with the reference group late last year, and
But now with the building costs it's skyrocketing, and I know we've got to go back to the, whatever it is, to get an approval again. Just, it's a worry with the money that we've not got. Anyway, all right.
General Manager.
Councillor Hannon will mention it.
I think it's just worth saying that going back to the OLG is an administrative thing that we must do because we are changing the funding mix.
Yeah.
We're also So I think internally we feel that the funding strategy that's attached to this report has some advantage over the funding strategy that we had previously.
Okay.
It will free up some of the VPA money to do other local projects that don't have another source of funding. So what's being included in the report has gone through a lot of quality checking. And we're quite confident in putting it forward to you that it's achievable.
Yeah.
Thank you, General Manager. On that topic, as we can thank the Albanese Labor government who are committing, I think, $1 million to women's toilets at the Rockdale Illington Sports Centre. So that'll be great for, change rooms. That'll be great for women's football in the area. But any other questions on the item? Right, all those in favour, all those against, declare it carried. And that brings us to the end of the agenda, just in time for State of Origin. I declare the meeting closed at 7:27 p.m. We've got plenty of time.
Never ever watched it.